Welcome. I am Yagamoth, and this is Chunk Tyler. Chunk Tyler is a Chunkman and a Tileman. I imagine a lot of people watching this are familiar with both kinds of accounts for old school RuneScape, but just in case. A Tileman can only walk on tiles he has unlocked, and every 1000 experience gained, he can unlock a new tile to walk on. And a Chunk account is confined to a 64 by 64 section of the RuneScape map, until all objectives are completed, at which point a new chunk is rolled to get more tasks to complete. Combining these two concepts may surprise you on how elegant they work together. I originally wanted to make a Tileman, inspired by Settle's fantastic series, but I never actually started such an account because I just didn't have an end goal. Some goals seemed too far removed from my current skill level, while others felt like they would just slow down my progress without adding anything worthwhile for me personally. But do you know what has a lot of tasks and objectives? A Chunk account. For example, here are the tasks an Extreme 1 Chunk aims to complete starting in Abridged Castle. The two most notorious objectives are level 99 woodcutting, while only ever using a steel axe, and the best 3 is a willow tree. And level 99 defense, while your best weapon is a mithril battle axe, and the most efficient opponent to defeat are men and women. That is pretty extreme, and people have done that before. Anyways, my objectives when combining the Extreme 1 Chunk with a Tileman are: keep the rules simple. The simpler the rules, the easier it is to follow or even suggest strategies as a viewer. And keep it challenging. While I am more than happy to soften up some of the extreme grinds, I did not want to remove them. So here's the general rules I came up with. For 1, quests, clue steps, bosses and minigames can only be done if they are within the unlocked chunks. With one exception, but we'll get to that. So I can't just use the Tileman node to go out and complete Monkey Madness for a Dragon Scimitar for the defense grind, for example. I'm going to say mini quests are allowed unless someone convinces me otherwise. I kind of would like to get the Vial Smasher unlocked someday for a tiny bit of quality of life. Number 2. Any activity, skill training or stat leveling outside of the chunk borders has to be directly related to a chunk task. For example, the level 99 woodcutting requirement. It makes sense to go out and buy a rune axe, as well as use the forestry shop and its tools. And in order to get a rune felling axe, I would need to get level 41 smithing. So I would be allowed to train smithing to 41. But here I could not use mining to help train smithing, because that would be 2 steps removed from the main chunk tasks, and therefore not directly related. So the Tileman node certainly helps, but it's not a free pass. In fact, it comes laced with its own challenges and burdens. In short, number 3, any quests, items, skills and tool requirements for potential tasks that can be unlocked or completed through the Tileman node are required. Let me illustrate that for you, and simultaneously let's talk about the chunk objectives. As a baseline, I'm using the Extreme 1 Chunk Iron Man rule set by Limpward. Starting in the Abridged Castle, here's the list of the skilling tasks to be completed for our chunk. Get level 20 attack to wield a mithril battle axe, get level 60 firemaking to burn some yew logs, level 1 thieving to pickpocket a man or a woman, which, well, is already done I guess, level 72 fletching to fletch a yew shield, level 99 woodcutting to acquire the woodcutting cape, level 99 defense to acquire the defense cape, level 1 magic to cast wind strike, and level 42 cooking to cook fried onions. For the best in slot equipment we have to get the mithril battle axe from Bob's Axe's shop, leather boots laying around in the Lumbridge basement, bronze med helm dropped from the men, a yew shield that I have to fletch myself, a training bow from the ranged tutor, bronze arrows, a blue wizard hat from the imps, and an iron dagger laying around in the goblin hut across the bridge. For the quest there is Cook's Assistance, about, well, 1.5 steps, or 2 if you will. Basically, you just start the quest and get 2 out of the 3 ingredients, and that's all you can do. And for Rune Mistress, the Restless Ghost, as well as X Marks the Spot, all of these quests are just going to start the quest without being able to do anything further with the standard rule set. For diary tasks there are Learn your age from hunts for an easy task, pickpocket a man or a woman also for an easy task, and chop and burn some oak logs, as you would guess, also an easy task. And that's it. Well, that's it for the standard Extreme 1 chunk. Since we have the Tileman subclass, we have to adjust the following. All quests will be completed in full. If they are started within the chunk borders, I have to do them. This also means we have access to a cooking range in Lumbridge, and thus level 58 cooking for the pita bread is a requirement as well. I can easily find a way to get a bowstring, so fletching a Ur shortbow as a best-in-slot ranged weapon as well as equipping it with level 40 range is going to be a requirement too. Level 36 fishing to catch a rainbow fish, since I can easily acquire feathers and the fishing rod required for that. Also, this is the quest exception I mentioned earlier. I will be required to complete Druidic Ritual to unlock Herblore. The reason for this is a little bit convoluted, but in short, I started playing the chunk account before I figured out and solidified all the rules and ideas, and started training farming because of it, since that would help with the Herblore later. So instead of redoing a few days of work, actually weeks by now, on the account and starting a new one, I just rolled with it. But rest assured, this is not to my benefit, because it adds a juicy level 70 Herblore requirement to clean a grimy dwarfweed. Also, in case you didn't catch that, my character is an ultimate Ironman, so this means I can't just easily bank a ton of herbs beforehand, since inventory space is quite precious. Besides that, I can also complete additionally a few more diary tasks. Bake some bread on the Lumbridge range, travel from Lumbridge to Edgeville in a Waka canoe, craft, string and enchant an Amulet of Power. This is the big one, because I will need to reach level 70 crafting and 57 magic to be able to do this. Cast the Lumbridge teleport spell, catch a salmon and craft a coif in the Lumbridge cow pen. I also entirely forgot to add level 12 construction to build and fill the beginner stash, so this is also an additional rule that I completely forgot to even include anywhere else, but if there's a stash unit in my chunk, I will need to build it and also fill it, as long as the quest requirements and other things are met. But at least in Lumbridge, this means I will need to fill the beginner stash with a bronze axe and some leather shoes. Last but not least, let's talk about the square elephant in the room. The Tileman mode unlocks 1 tile to walk on outside the chunk border every 1000 experience gained. This means that after I eventually get 99 woodcutting and defense, I will have over 26,000 tiles to walk on from that alone. I could go almost anywhere, and you know, that's not really the goal of my account. I don't want to have all the freedom there, so my current idea is, once I complete all the chunk objectives and roll a new chunk, I just wipe out all the unlocked tiles outside of the chunk and set the available tiles to 0. It's a bit of an extreme measure that may have unforeseen consequences due to my additional chunk requirements and objective unlocks, but it keeps it simple. I am contemplating whether I would allow myself to choose the next chunk instead of randomly rolling. By the time all the chunk objectives are complete, if I have 4096 tiles available, because, you know, 64 times 64 is the size of a chunk, and that is 4096 tiles. But aside from that, if you have better ideas or other methods of how to handle that, because let me be frank, having 26,000 tiles to walk on outside of the chunks, there may as well be no chunk borders at that point, so I definitely need to restrict that in some capacity. So this isn't entirely set in stone yet on how I'm going to handle it, and I'm happy to receive feedback and ideas. And that's all the preamble. If you notice something I forgot or would like to have a clarification for, please let me know. I'm somewhat of an OSRS noob still, and there's a decent chance I may have missed something. Thank you very much. I started my journey like so many other chunk accounts would, chopping down trees, burning the logs, and also this was initially free to play until I kind of got a bit further into the account, since at the time I was still kind of unsure as to whether I will actually stick with this account and follow through. So free to play seemed like a sensible way to go about it. I also collected runes from the magic tutor in order to, well, cast more spells, maybe gain more tiles along the way, and that was kind of more or less the entire account. Initially I was going to just sell the logs and gather more money until I would be able to afford a steel axe, which would significantly increase the time it took to, well, cut some more wood. And that's kind of all I did at the beginning. The way I'll be handling the commentary is, sometimes I will be doing voiceovers like this, where, you know, the live commentary was not particularly useful or insightful, and other times I'm actually going to just straight up use the in-game commentary like this. So I'm quite a noob at the early game of the old school RuneScape thing, so I've played basically just one account for most of my lifetime, and I only started like, what, 1.5 to 2 years ago by now? So I'm very inexperienced at this. So what I'm actually currently doing is every few minutes when the shopkeeper basically removes their inventory, I sell 6 logs for 1 coin each, and eventually I will acquire 200 coins to be able to afford a steel axe. That's the current plan. And with this I reach 15 wood cutting. I can cut down oak trees now, which is going to be a bit more convenient because I can just sit at the oak trees and hack away at them. The regular trees all fall down in one cut, you just get 1 log from them. However, oak trees, you can get multiples at a time. So I'm just clicking on these, and once this tree is knocked down, I'm clicking on this one. And that's going to be what I repeat for the next... I have no idea how long. Long time. Oh, it turns out oak logs are actually way more valuable than regular logs. Indeed, that amazing insight that higher level material is worth a lot more than, you know, regular stuff, allowed me to get the steel axe much sooner than I initially anticipated. Alrighty, I think this should be enough money in order to be able to afford a steel axe. Now, it would be significantly more efficient if I were to sell these logs more or less one at a time. Oh, you cannot sell any more at the moment. That's fine. Apparently there's some free-to-play restrictions that I'm actually not quite aware of. Either way, I have my 200 coins, and that's all I needed. It would have been much more efficient to sell the logs more or less one at a time for the maximum profit, but I'm going to be woodcutting here for quite a while longer. So just kind of getting to click the oaks once in a while was quite fine. 200 coins for the steel axe. And, right. I need level 5 attack in order to be able to equip that thing. I might just go ahead and bonk some goblins. Would have been efficient if I did that beforehand. Also, gonna use my fancy Iron Man or Ultimate Iron Man armor for this. Honestly, I don't know what it is about this armor, but it just looks really neat. Either way. Time to get strength and attack experience, and attack some rats. The goblins turned out to be too strong for having literally no combat experience or particularly good weapons. The rats were quite scattered around and about, so killing them was also a bit inefficient, so I decided to go into the Lumbridge castle basement, where there were a bunch of spiders I could just knock out one by one, and that worked out pretty well. Also, this is not something I was thinking about at the time, but in the future, all of these underground areas will have their tiles to be required to be unlocked through the Tileman mode, and rest assured I will be returning here to pay my debt.
And here we're about to get level 6 strength. I'm kind of hoping that now I will get a max hit of 2 on the attack training stab option here, but I actually have no idea how you calculate that. So, oh, there it is. Got it too. It might have been already last level, but I hit 7 spiders, none of them gave me a 2 maximum hit, so could just be coincidence. Either way. More training until attack level 5. I actually had no idea that the spiders could even drop the beginner clues. But suddenly one of these things was just laying on the ground. And it's actually a clue step I can do. Talk to Hans. So I'm going to just wait until I get presumably about 3 clue steps I can do. And then I'm going to try and turn them in, see what we get.
Oh, how young and naive I was back then, about 2 months ago, thinking I could actually juggle clue steps without them being lost somewhere along the way. In case you're wondering what happened to most of the clue steps and clues that you see laying around, well, I'm terrible at clue juggling, and most of them are just straight up lost because I forget about them. If you don't know what clue juggling is, you basically just drop your current clue on the ground and it will stay there for about an hour. Then you just try to get another clue that you can do. And then you can just do each step of each clue individually and have a much higher chance of getting a casket out of it.
Alrighty, and here, once we knock out this spider, this is going to be level 5 attack. So that means I will be able to wield the steel axe, saving 1 inventory space. And now, since combat stuff is done, at least for now, going to unequip everything and just drop and destroy these, because when you have only 1 agility, your run... How do you even phrase that?
Yeah, how do you say the more weight you carry, the quicker your run energy depletes? That's kind of what I was trying to get to. My live commentary is a bit of a mess sometimes.
Alrighty, and here we have level 30 woodcutting. We now cut down willow trees, and this is also level 30 fire making. I can now light willow trees. And I do believe there are some willow trees somewhere. And if not, that is when the Tileman stuff comes in. Oh, it's over there. Also, as you can see, I got 3 clues so far. 2 useless ones, 1 Varrock and Falador, and 1 actually over here in Lumbridge. Alrighty, time to just relax and chill with the willow trees. Cut them down, sell them, and light them on fire. You know, that actually sounds like a terrible activity if you think about it.
Also, every time my inventory fills up with willow logs currently, what I do is I'm just going to make a fire line, just training some fire making, getting more tiles along the way, and, you know, at least the logs don't really go to waste. All the way to the general store. Basically, the logs work out just well enough that I will have 4 left over, and these 4 I will sell to the store owner. And this is approximately, well, once I have a full inventory, when this guy no longer has any willow logs in stock and I get the maximum price for it. And that's how I'm going to get to 42,000 coins, eventually. 42,000 coins was the first big milestone I was trying to reach, because that is the amount of money a rune axe costs if you just purchase it in the woodcutting guild. And to my knowledge, there's not really any other places to get a rune axe. However, of course, the difficulty would be how to even get to the woodcutting guild, because it's all the way over in Courrent. And that's pretty far away, so I would also have to accumulate quite a lot of tiles in order to be able to reach that location.
Whenever I'm paying less attention to the game, the easier way in order to not waste the logs and just drop them is just make a fire and then use the campfire or the forester's campfire. You can do this without a backpack, which, well, is convenient. It gives only a third of the fire making experience, which really is not worth it, but I mean, it just slowly uses up the inventory and I don't have much to pay much attention to it. Alrighty, so it turns out that the Pillory Guard random event is not in my chunk, because everything is just grey. Where am I? Is this Varrock? Is this the normal location? I never even thought about that. Well, I guess I'm going to unlock my first tile in Tileman mode.
I then proceeded to fumble my way through the menus to figure out on how the Tileman plugin even works, because at this point I didn't even actually look at it until now. And this is officially my first tile unlocked, in the middle of Varrock in a cage that is mostly entirely useless.
320 coins. Hey, that's nice. Alrighty. I think I realized that it's probably about time to break free from the free-to-play shackles, because originally I was thinking I might as well just do the woodcutting in free-to-play, because it's gonna take a while, but I'm going to reach level 70 level 60 woodcutting way before I'm going to reach the required 42,000 coins, so it just makes sense to start using the logs for fletching instead of anything else. So this means I need to bond up, because in free-to-play you cannot train thieving, you cannot train fletching and many other things. So I have an Iron Man. That's literally my entire character. I don't actually have anything else. So can I give this over? Ha! No. As a matter of fact, I cannot. I cannot give a bond to my other character. Well, that's a little bit awkward. I guess I'll have to pay for membership directly. Well, there goes 11 mil from my iron. Oh well. A lesson learned. Oh no.
I then purchased membership the normal way, grabbed the knife from the Lumber's castle and got to fletching.
Alrighty, after just about 3,400 arrow shafts, we can now make longbows. And this is going to be the first time I'm going to make some money out of these. I could have created short bows, but short bows give the same amount of fletching experience as just making arrow shafts. And I didn't want to keep running back and forth over to the general store. One thing I didn't account for is that this store here is very full of willow longbows. And, well, I hope that doesn't become a problem.
What I failed to explain here is that the more items of one kind you sell to a store, the less money you get per each individual item. So this store having a ton of willow longbows already in store means that they basically sell for the minimum amount, which is not particularly ideal if you want to make a decent amount of money. So at this point I just have a number of clips that are basically just fletching levels, so let me condense these down a little bit. We get to make oak logs into arrow shafts, then 5 levels later oak short bows, 5 levels later oak longbows, willow short bows at level 35 fletching, willow longbows at level 40 fletching, and that is going to be the best money maker and fletching experience I will have in this chunk for quite a long time. Well, actually, it's never gonna change in this chunk, I guess. It's just gonna be maybe stuff outside. this is the clip where I was just babbling on and on about how I'm going to set up the chunk picker and all of these various things, because I was still figuring out the rules, and well, recording my thoughts might have been potentially useful for putting in the video, but for the most part it's just useless rambling, except for this gem of a realization right here.
And last, and certainly not least, and I did this to myself, I selected Herblore Unlocked because, you know, I can unlock Herblore without any trouble, because I'm also a Tileman. Might take me a bit, but once I have the woodcutting stuff, it should be fine, right? Well, here's the catch. I did not realize that this also means I need to get level 70 Herblore and clean a grimy dwarf weed. And I have the slight suspicion that I will probably just want to keep up with that Herblore grind as much as possible. But, I only know regular Iron Man Herblore grind, where I have a bank. This is an ultimate, so I have absolutely no idea how I'm gonna do this. So I'm just gonna get the woodcutting thing first, see whether I even stick to it. Leave the rest for future Yagamoth. Hooray.
So since then, my plan for the Herblore grind has a bit solidified. I'm going to be getting level 99 woodcutting first, and then during this time, hopefully for some forestry events, I get a variety of useful herb seeds that I will be able to plant. I will be getting a decent amount of farming levels so I can plant these herbs, and then I'm going to go ahead and then train my 99 defense while defeating enemies that drop me herb seeds, and just going to be farming on the sides during this entire level 99 grind, and hope that this will be enough Herblore experience accumulated over the long run in order to get to level 70. So these clips all were recorded quite a while ago, and most of them I'm actually just kind of editing or cutting out or doing a new voiceover. However, I came across this one clip here, which I think actually gives a pretty good insight as to where my thoughts were at the time, my thought process, and kind of explains a lot about the chunks, rules, settings, ideas, concepts. And I'm just going to largely leave it in here unfiltered, because I think that is quite interesting. Just keep in mind, at the time the rules were still very much not solidified yet.
Well, let's see if I can get this in a coherent way. So you might be wondering, Yagamoth, why not just play a Tileman rather than this weird amalgamation of Chunkman and Tileman? And the answer to why not just play a Tileman is objectives. Like, what kind of goal would I have in order to play the Tileman? I'm somebody who likes to explore, like, new ideas, new borders. So the Inferno Cape, as in difficult PvM challenge, in my mind has already been done to an extent. But of course, you can always say somebody else telling the same story can be interesting still in different ways. But I just kind of like to maybe stick to something else here. Either way, basically for me personally, I just wouldn't know what kind of objective would I go for as a Tileman. Quest Cape, I guessed I could work, but I just felt like it was slowing me down for no particular gain in the end. And objective is kind of brings me to the Chunkman. Hey Yagamoth, why not just play a Chunkman? And the answer to that is a bit more complicated. So the short version is, I wanted to play Ultimate Iron Man since a long time, because it's really fascinating to me that everything I have is in my inventory right now. It's just, that's all there is. And having a good reason to start a new account is kind of nice. But the regular extreme rule set does not really suit a Ultimate Iron Man whatsoever. Like the objectives where you occasionally may need to collect thousands of runes and items and various things and collect seeds from birds' nests in order to plant them. Basically, with the limited inventory space without a bank, it makes it really awkward. An Ultimate Iron Man often needs to plan far ahead in order to be able to function whatsoever. So my inspiration is Happery to an extent on YouTube. He also has an Ultimate Ironman with effectively extreme chunk rules. And the twist on Happery's channel is that he can choose which chunks he is going to unlock next. So he's going to plan ahead as to what grinds he's going to do next, what is going to be more beneficial. He unlocked, for example, as a wilderness chunk in order to have access to a looting bag and stuff like that. So it just kind of feels more fitting for an Ultimate Ironman to have a more planned approach to an extent. And to me, initially, the Tileman addition to the chunk rule set was kind of a bit of a make it slightly easier mode. Like the extreme stuff is a bit too extreme. Grinding up to 99 defense on level 2 NPCs is kind of crazy. Like that is still very crazy. Grinding to 99 woodcutting with a steel axe on these trees here, that's also kind of ridiculous, honestly. So having the freedom to just step outside of my chunks, specifically for a limited time, or well, not time, for a limited amount of steps, so to speak, that I have to earn beforehand, is a lot more interesting to me. Plus, I'm currently contemplating whether I'm also going to implement a rule where if I spend all the tiles for a particular chunk, instead of having to randomly roll the next chunk, I can pick it. Which would mean I would pay 4,096 tiles in order to unlock a specific chunk rather than just roll randomly. But I haven't quite decided on whether I'm going to do that yet. And another thing actually that just kind of came more organically, which in hindsight I kind of enjoy, is the twist that I'm going to unlock Herblore. Which means I have to clean a grimy dwarf weed, so I have to somehow figure out how to do this. It's an entire logistical challenge that I didn't expect and wasn't really prepared for, and now I'm kind of racking my brain trying to plan and figure this out, and it's actually quite fun to just figure out what do I even do. Plus, I will have to get 99 defense. What is my optimal approach here? I can only walk so many tiles, so I can't just go and do heaps of quests. I could just stay at Sandcrabs for a long time, but which weapons, which equipment should I get? Stuff like that. Plus, because I'm only allowed to step outside of my chunk via tiles, specifically related to chunk objectives, it keeps it more contained, so to speak. Like I can't just go out there and complete monkey madness in order to get a dragon scimitar. That's, in my opinion, too many steps removed from the 99 defense. But besides that, I'm just gonna go and only go outside if it's specifically allowed for the chunk. So, I hope future Yagamoth can somehow scramble together a cohesive thought process from these ideas in order to make that. Or you just redo the voiceover, you decide, buddy. Bye. Yeah, I just say bye to my future self in these clips all the time. I have no idea why I started doing that. Alrighty, here's the first Sergeant event, and I just realized that this is not in my chunk. So, I should activate Tileman mode. Messed up on the last one. Either way. Camo top. The reason why this is relevant is, if you're not aware, once I complete a full set of a random event, I will actually get experience lamps for that. So, I'm just gonna be rocking the camo top for a while now, and go back to woodcutting. And, do you see that? I just leave a trail of tiles behind me because I just forgot to turn off Tileman mode. Like a slug, it's just a trail. I kinda lost count by now on how many times I've done that, but, well, the first time it was amusing. So I've been thinking about this for a little while now, but my inventory space is extremely valuable. To the point where each individual item that I can get rid of or not keep is very desirable. And I was thinking, am I really going to keep arrow shafts? Like, what's the purpose? Sure, I could go and buy feathers and get a bunch of fletching experience, But really, I don't think the fletching experience is going to be the bottleneck in this chunk. So I think I'm just going to drop these arrows. 10,000 arrows up, or arrow shafts anyways, are pretty easy to get again. So at least for now I'm not going to be attached to it, and one more inventory space.
At this point I also started to try and accumulate money more quickly than before. Initially I was just selling all the willow longbows to the same store for minimal amounts of money gained. However, eventually I decided that it would be beneficial to sell the willow longbows to different stores, as in just hop worlds, in order to get a better price for them, so I would be able to afford my rune or adamant axe more quickly.
After a long day of woodcutting, we reach level 60 woodcutting. We can now enter the woodcutting guild.
And here I was just contemplating whether I should buy an adamant axe because I didn't have enough money for a rune axe yet, or whether I should just wait until I had all the money for the rune axe, because it felt kind of slow going at the time. But hey, if I couldn't stick through this little grind, what chance would I have to get to level 99 woodcutting in the end? So I decided to just wait until I would have enough money to buy a rune axe directly.
Alrighty, it is time. With this, I'm comfortably over 42,000 coins. If I'm not mistaken, actually the rune axe only costs just about 42,000. Actually, just about 41,000. I have a bit too much, technically. But it is time to leave the comfort of my chunk. Unlock Tileman 1 tile. And it is time to step outside. And boom, we're outside.
I then proceeded to carefully maneuver my way to the tree patch, buy a rake and get my first bit of farming experience here. The end goal for farming is to enable the herb lore grind, and woodcutting will provide a lot of tree seeds that I can just plant nearby to level farming, once I reach level 15 to grow oak trees. Next, I figured I should hit up some nearby points of interest along the way. The ham hideout could potentially provide a lot of interesting items for the future. Also, that red line, this is the shortest path plugin that I can use to figure out navigation a bit more easily. Afterwards, I walked past some aggressive guard that decided to whack me, which was kind of rude, and then I arrived in Draenor village and grabbed a forestry kit from the friendly forester.
Do I go to the shop? Oh, there we go. I think I get a forestry kit for free. And hey, now we have a backpack for our branded journey.
Looking ahead, there are some dark wizards that will also be aggressive to me, so I just wanted to get past them quickly. A bit of a problem with running in Tileman mode is that occasionally the plugin misses some tiles that I run past, and I have to pay attention and go back to cover them. But I got past the dark wizards with no issues. After some brief raking at the spirit tree patch, I arrived in Port's Rim. Veos here doesn't even want any money for bringing us over to Corinth, which is very convenient. Thank you very much. Initially I was contemplating whether I should take the ship all the way down to Land's End and walk from there, or whether I should walk from Port Piscarius. Ultimately I decided that while Land's End is probably less tiles invested to get to the axe shop, I would get a few more points of interest along the way if I walked all the way down instead. So I went down that route. Along the way I came by a door I marked on my other account.
Ignore my markers. Over there. This marker says, door is here, dingus. This was addressed at myself, because when doing mahogany homes, I kept clicking on this door on the other side, which is just like a little backyard garden, which you can't enter the building from. So I just marked this door for that, but I don't think this is going to be relevant anytime soon. And then walked straight by the fruit stalls, in case I wanted to do some thieving at some point. Oh, I should have gone through here. That was a mistake. But now we're here. If I took the other path instead, it likely would have saved me a few tiles. Also, if I decided to get a Xerix talisman at some point, I would be able to link up the path with this teleport location more easily. But that's too late now. Here's also where I got my first regular farming patch, where I could plant some stuff. If I was smarter, I would have grabbed some potato seeds to plant in Draenor village along the way, since, well, I literally walked by the vendor right there. Oh well. At this point, I was fairly sure that I would not have enough tiles to reach the axe shop, but I tried anyways. Well, such is the brutal reality of Tileman. I do not have enough tiles to make it all the way over here. I then also realized that the shortest path plugin actually provides me with how many steps there are until I reach my destination, which I had no idea about until, well, exactly this point here. So it was back to woodcutting to gather more experience to unlock more tiles, and well, with a pretty good estimate that I would need about 100 tiles more in order to be able to get to my desired rune axe. Oh, I almost forgot. I do now have a forester's backpack, so theoretically I can get forestry events. That could be interesting. And these forestry events are indeed quite interesting. All of them increased woodcutting experience gain, so that was useful to gain more tiles more quickly, as well as all of them also provide us with the forestry currency with the anima-infused bark, with which we can potentially buy some more rewards from the forestry shop in order to improve woodcutting even further. Also, in case you're curious, forestry is not labeled as a minigame on the OSRS wiki, so I can just make all the forestry events appear in my own chunk and just gather the anima-infused bark by myself. But according to my rules, it would also be quite alright if I went out into the various forestry spots where people normally create these forestry events more frequently. Hold up, a bird's nest is worth 181 coins in the shop? I always drop them until now. Holy crap, it's worth more than the gold ring that was inside it. Wow. I guess it is an important ingredient and stuff, but well, could have had more money before. Also, I am now just kind of burning the willow logs because that is a bit more experience per log, and since experience is the goal, and I will need to reach level 60 fire making anyways, this seems like a good investment to do this right now. If I want to have a bit more of AFK time, I'm going to go back to fletching. The next random event at this point was also, once again, the Sergeant Damien event, giving me another piece of the camo outfit. Just one more of these events, and afterwards he would actually give me experience lamps instead, which I could put onto various skills. Alrighty, and with just a few more logs right here, I have reached 100 available tiles. Alrighty, it is time. Alrighty, I have arrived back to where I was. We need to get just a little bit over here. This place is our goal. So I'm just gonna follow the line and hope that I don't lose any more tiles by accident. I lost 2 tiles because you land on the ship on the second time we traveled to Koren rather than on the docks. And 3 other 3? No idea. So it turns out, if you're running instead of walking across your tiles, sometimes your game actually paths you slightly differently and you cut some corners when running that you don't normally cut when just walking. And that's kind of how I lost the additional 3 tiles along the way. Also, because woodcutting was on my mind and I'm very easily distracted, I noticed these juniper trees along the way. Apparently you use juniper logs in order to make charcoal, which you can then turn into dynamite. And then I went onto a whole tangent as to if I need more tiles, I could just be cutting logs here, but you can't burn juniper tree logs for some reason. And yeah, that's a long story short, let's just continue. And our goal is in sight. We just need to open the gate and enter. Welcome to the woodcutting guild, thank you. Well, let's see whether we can get all the way over here. 4, 3, 2, 1. I need to get to Perry over here. I thought it was the guildmaster that sold the axes, but it's Perry. I am so close. But I will guess Perry just stays behind the counter. Indeed, Perry just stays back there, and even hopping worlds would not actually help me here whatsoever. So I just went back to the recently acquainted juniper trees and decided to just cut a bunch of wood there until I had enough tiles. Alright, I guess I'll see you later whenever I gathered a bunch of tiles. Alrighty, these trees are really weird because the trees actually have been updated that they basically only get cut down after a certain amount of time, depending on which tree. But this one here seems to be still like of the old type of tree where it's just always a chance whenever you cut a log to cut it down instead. So sometimes you just cut it down after 2 hits, and other times you get an inventory full of logs and it's still not cut down. That's curious. Alrighty, 6 tiles. Let us see if that is going to be enough. Littering all the juniper logs over the floor. Back to the woodcutting guild. Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 1 more tile. I'm going to just wait until Perry comes over here, so we can trade, and hopefully not lose our tile. Hi Perry. The rune axe costs basically 41,000 coins. And there it is. Right, I need 40 attack to wield that thing. But I think it is well worth it, and we don't need the steel axe anymore. Well, how much better is a rune axe compared to a steel axe? According to this handy OSRS wiki table, the chance to cut a log is about 75% better than a steel axe. Now, since I did have a rune axe, this also meant that I would need level 40 attack in order to be able to wield this thing. Otherwise it would just take up an additional inventory space, and you know, that's kind of precious. So, training it is, buying a steel battle axe and a mithril battle axe from Bob's Axes, and start whacking people. Initially I tried to whack men and women, and accidentally pickpocketed a man here. This is where one of the chunk of objectives to pickpocket a man in Lumbridge was completed. Hurrah! Then after attempting to battle the man in order to gain combat experience, I noticed that I was getting my ass handed to me. So
I went to grab the Ultimate Iron Man armor and went over to the goblins, see if those would be any better, and turns out it is in fact a lot better to just whack goblins. One of them also was nice enough to drop me a bronze spear, which turns out to be better than a steel battle axe, which I was a bit surprised by at the time.
Alrighty, this should be some fishing experience. Yep. 650 fishing experience for free, which is level 7 of fishing.
Neat. If you notice something wrong with this clip, don't worry, I'll get back to it. Now, considering that a bronze spear was better as a weapon than a steel battle axe, I figured the mithril battle axe wouldn't be that great. And while fighting goblins, I figured I might as well get enough tiles to potentially get over to Alcarid. I noticed that I need about 50 tiles, or well, a little bit less in order to get to the scimitar shop there, so I figured I have 45 tiles, let's go ahead and try to see whether we can get there. And lo and behold, I was able to just barely manage to get there and buy a mithril scimitar.
No, come back. I need to trade, sir. You were just standing here, buddy. Oh, didn't take too long. Alright. The mithril scimitar costs 1,040 coins. And the steel scimitar until I get there. Alright, that's all I wanted. Alrighty, and here we have level 20 attack. I can now equip the mithril scimitar.
So then, after reaching 20 attack, I noticed the clue I got at the same time was actually a doable step, and this meant that I could guaranteed getting a casket, since there's already 2 other doable steps on the ground just across the bridge here. And if you can spot the disaster in the making with these little green circles, you know, vanishing somewhat quick, well, you were more attentive than I was, because after doing the first step at the cook's assistant, where I didn't get the 10% chance for the casket, I returned and all the clues were gone. This is just the first time of many.
Uh-oh. I let them on the ground for too long. Well.
Yeah, oh well. So at this point, instead of just going straight for level 40 attack, I also needed to have a little bit of AFK time, and woodcutting was significantly easier to AFK than just going for combat. I was thinking, if I can get enough tiles to unlock the sand crabs in the south of Koren, it would be much easier to train my combat stats a little bit later, so I was just kind of going to go ahead and do a bit more woodcutting instead for easier tiles, and because forestry was now on my radar, I figured, how do you even purchase anything in the forestry shop as an ultimate Ironman? Because if you think about it, you need not just the anima bark in order to purchase things, but you also need to give logs, like hundreds of logs. And as an ultimate Ironman, you cannot note the logs by yourself. You have to specifically get them already noted from various sources if that was the requirement. Turns out there is an option from the friendly forester that just allows you to store the logs. You cannot get the logs back out of the shop, and it will remind you with a confirmation box every single time you put in logs that yes, you cannot get them back out. And with that, I will be able to store logs. So I was just kind of looking ahead as to what I will want to purchase in the future, and I noticed that I will want to deposit a bunch of oak and willow logs. And conveniently enough, there is an oak tree right behind the friendly forester in Raynor village, as well as the willow trees right by him. So I was just gonna go and start woodcutting over there for a while. Additionally, the convenient part is, normally emptying my inventory would either require me to drop each individual log one by one, or I would need to fletch them and then just sell all of these things or run to the general store. Here, it's actually much quicker to just empty my inventory by just, well, storing all of the logs. So I did that for a while. Until the fateful hour struck. Well, get another fishing random event for this one. This is actually quite fascinating to me. Because I have actually not gotten this random event until like a month or more even after I started playing paid. I just realized I didn't unlock the tiles last time. Oh no, that completely eluded me. Alrighty, I guess I'll have to pay some taxes. We're gonna waste all the tiles in here this time. I'm pretty sure I didn't use as many as I had, but I'm pretty sure I used more than I had at the time. Wonder how many... Alright, so here's my plan. If something like this happens, when I make a mistake and I just don't realize until later, I'm going to unlock the entire island. But right now I don't have enough tiles. So give me a moment to figure out how many tiles I will need for this. But now I'm wondering whether there's any more places that I might have forgotten that it cost me tiles. I don't think I had any other random events that transported me somewhere. Well, I didn't forget about any random events, but there was at least one more location that I did forget about. And that debt will also be paid with interest like this one. It's gonna be so expensive. Alrighty, I'm back. So, it turns out the Tileman plugin allows for a deficit. So this means I need to gather 480 tiles as compensation. I hope that is adequate, because that's a lot more than I hoped it would be. But hey, I already got the experience from the event. It kind of seems just regular that I would just do something about it, really, because I wanted to unlock every one of these random event things and then I just forget. The thing is, I'm a dingus. I forget once in a while. That's just what I do. And consequently, well, I have to work my way around these mishaps. There's gonna be a lot of tiles. Oh boy. Alrighty, that's all the old clock stored for now. 517, I wanted to get to 500 for the first 3 items. I won't need the others for a while. And, well, I'm just going to go back to Lumbridge, back to the prison. And I'll need to make amends. To be clear, what I need to make amends for is the tile deficit. So I'm gonna be woodcutting and fletching, maybe even a bit of combat for a while. You know what? Considering they just updated RuneScape, I'm gonna go back to combat for a little while, try to get 40 attack. And that's going to be the goal for wielding my Rune Axe. So that's the current plan. Oh, also, I entirely forgot, the main reason why I'm not getting all the logs is because I actually have a plan. I have an idea as to what I'm going to be doing in order to get all these magic and dew logs and stuff like that. Because there is something I've never actually tried in this game, even on my regular character. And I think this could be an interesting way to get all the required logs. Would you believe that I entirely forgot about this secret plan and only was just reminded now as I'm rewatching these clips in order to put them in the video? So, turns out the plan was to try and go and defeat Ents, because they do drop logs noted when you defeat them and chop up their trunk. And I figured that actually might have been a pretty clever way of getting various logs, especially the more difficult ones to acquire that would take a long time to cut down from the trees themselves, and then somehow awkwardly transport them a long distance over to the forestry shop where I could store them. Yeah, that would have been really interesting. Man, I should have thought about that. Sorry. Also, I kind of originally meant to have this video go until I reached the first big milestone that I've reached, and let's put it this way, there's a lot more progress that is already done than this in this video, but I figured this might be a fine place to stop for now. I didn't originally plan on doing it this way, but this video just keeps getting longer and longer with all these voiceovers, and it just takes a long time. So I'm kind of also trying to gather feedback. What would you like to see? How should I maybe sequence things differently? What do you think is great? What do you not like? Stuff like that. Any feedback is more than welcome, and ideas for strategies on how to play the game, maybe suggestions on how to handle all these tiles that I have, maybe just wiping them all out after a chunk roll is not the ideal way, stuff like that. If you have ideas, I'm more than happy to receive them. For now, however, thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for listening and for lurking. I hope you enjoyed your stay, I hope you enjoyed being around, and well, maybe until next time. Take care, and have a good time.